Hey YouTube, just wanted to update you on some recent progress I've made with agent to agent framework. The previous video had introduced a couple of different characters. Homie, the gnome thief, was one of our agents. Bob, the bartender, another one of our agents. The tavern itself, which is managing game state and like actions, like think of Dungeons and Dragons and roll for damage or initiative or whatever you're rolling for. That's what the tavern's handling. So there's a new one, WZA, Wizza, like Jizza, Rizza, the Wu-Tang Clan. Anyway, the latest guy is a mind reader. And the way that I'm kind of swinging this is I have a scenario where I'm feeding it some JSONs to basically get the scenario going. But the wizard comes in, he's another agent, and he's there to basically kind of keep tabs on the situation and try to help the barkeeper out. So the bartender is going to get robbed, or that's like the goal of the agent of the gnome thief. But the wizard is there to kind of change what's going to happen. So the way that this is working, there's two different things going on. One thing is that the wizard is now discovering the other agents. So the other agents all have agent cards. So part of the agent to agent framework is having like every agent has its own agent card, which is basically just JSON describing what is the agent, what can it do. And so in this most recent iteration, the wizard's coming into the tavern and is seeing the gnome and the bartender, and he's basically getting their information from their agent card. And I'm calling that reading of minds because essentially he can see like, oh, this is the gnome thief, or this is the bartender Bob, and whatever information. So there's information on the agent card that could be revealing of like, oh, this is doesn't look good. So he comes in and then he can discover the agents. And this is like something that you would actually do with agents, is if you had an agent and it wanted to talk to other agents to get its task done, it needs to go to some kind of agent store. So what I have right now at the tavern is like a private agent store where I've registered my agents, and now the agents are just gonna, this new agent that comes along is gonna use the discovery to say, okay, well, what are the agents that we have here? Like, what can I do? So then he discovers the thief, discovers the bartender, so he kind of gets a sense of like, oh, this isn't good. And so here's an example. I hope you can see this. Let me move this a little bit away just in case my image is blocking it. So it starts off, the user is setting all the different goals. So I start off this scenario. Oops, wait, is this? Oops, there we go. Oh no, I got to go back to the beginning. Sorry. Uh, Okay, let me scroll up a little bit. Give me 1 minute. Okay, so I'm starting out the scenario. It's actually registering the MCP, so I'll get to that in a second. But if you know the channel or if you know like AI in general, MCP is the hotness. I did a lot of stuff with it months ago, but now it's coming back again and it's still hot. So anyway, I have an MCP for a file system. And an MCP is basically just a, I think the easiest way to think of that are tools for LLMs, or like give your LLM additional things it didn't have. Like web search is a good one, or GitHub integration. So you can basically talk to your LLM and say, throw something into my GitHub, and then it'll go and make the API calls on your behalf. So MCPs are a way to like interface your LLM with tools, and it's an Anthropic standard now, or it's a standard for everything now. Anyway, so Wizza, the wizard, with a simple MCP integration, checks for the directory where it's going to write the files or read the files to. It starts up the MCP server, and then so connecting to the MCP server. So it starts the MCP server, and once the MCP server is up, then I can read and write to this directory that I've chosen. So there's other videos I have on MCPs. You can look at those some other time. But these are the tools that this guy's having, is like reading files, writing files, creating directories. Okay, that's fine. Actually, in the scenario, the MCP usage is being called future, and I'll explain why in a second. But the scene starts off with the tavern. again, we're just sending JSONs back and forth. That's all this A2A is just sending a bunch of tasks. And so this latest task would be from me, where it's like, set the scene, describe the atmosphere, mention Bob, mention homie, and that's it. So then this sets the scene. Then another task is basically me again talking about, homie going through it and, what have you been doing, homie? It's like, oh, you've been watching Bob's Gemstone. What's going through your mind right now? And then it goes through, and these are like little you know, he's thinking to himself, or he'll like say something, and so this is like basically homie's turn. Um, he does distraction. Oh, he does sleight of hand. So I'll find a buyer in the next. I get appraised by myself. A nice little college, a gem bolt. Right, distraction first. Quick as a week. More importantly, got to be sneaky. Sleight of hand check to estimate his chances of success. 13 plus 6, not bad. Not with good distraction, this could work. So they're doing rolls, they're doing dice rolls and things like that. Behind the scenes, it's being handled by the tavern. But here's Bob. He's getting a little bit suspicious of homie going to steal his gem. But the real action is when the wizard comes. So in this step, in this JSON, this task, it's given from me to the wizard, and it's basically saying you just entered the tavern. The atmosphere is tense. Introduce yourself and sense that something interesting is happening. So he goes through, greets, but then this is the part where easing the tension, and then he does an action. Now that the introductions are complete and my spells are cast, so he does read mind. He does action read mind on target Bob, action read mind on target homie, and then now he's sending the task. So basically now the wizard agent is sending a task, and the action is read minds. The target here is homie, and then the response is, okay, well, what's going on? The gnome homie is my first target. I shall use my mind reading abilities to understand him better and suggest a model that could help him with his goals. Close my eyes, read mind. Now that I have better understanding, I can perceive my plans. Ah, homie, a most enterprising individual. Stroking my beard, I sense a deep-seated desire to wealth. A noble goal, but in the eyes of some, you wish to acquire treasures undetected. Intriguing. A hugging face could model. Oh, something about hugging face. I don't know. Consider this, young homie. There is some sort of like, I got some boilerplate crap around hugging face. Don't worry about that part. But then the next step is the wizard seeing the future with MCP. So it starts off by like changing the future because I want to set up the scenario each time. But the future in this text file says, homie will steal Bob's gem tonight while Bob is distracted by a bar fight. And then so the wizard casts divination to see the future, and he's reading from that file. So he's reading from future.txt via the MCP. So the MCP is running in the background, and then this agent is calling the MCP, and then the MCP is actually executing the code and running like the tool that it is. So this could be like accessing a RAG database, or this could be accessing whatever. But for now, I'm just doing like file system. But the point is that now we have multiple different agents. Now within our scenario, we've sent JSON to our agent to basically kick it off and say, okay, well, use the file system tool, which is calling future in this hypothetical scenario, to then see what's in this file. So then here's the wizard, the user. The part is text. His action is to see the future. And then he goes through, he casts the see the future spell. The images, blah, 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 cold shiver. I perceive a path fraught with peril, a treasure sought, roll for insight. Trust not appearances and heed the whispers of your heart. A subtle shift in their expression suggests my cryptic warning has struck a chord. They both seem intrigued. Now figure out why they wanted to see the future in the first place. Okay. You decide to warn Bob about what you've seen in homie's mind and the vision of the future. My objective remains the same. I casually stroll. Greetings, Bob. So basically, he gets the word that homie's trying to steal the gem. Then he goes to Bob. Then he warns Bob. He reads Bob's mind again. And then Bob basically responds to it and he's like, "What? How did you know about the gem?" And then, talks to the wizard and then is basically like, "Can I trust the wizard?" He's like, "Yes, you can trust the wizard." After that, they confront the thief. So now, like, Bob confronts Homie about stealing the gem, and then Homie then kind of like shifts his focus and gets into like some sort of basically trying to see if if this is real or not, and then he does a perception check. Uh, so Bob is basically checking on Homie. Homie nearly chokes on his ale as he overhears the speech. This is all a big misunderstanding. I was just admiring this fine establishment. So basically, the thief tries to convince Bob and Wizza that he had no ill intentions. He has to back up this quickly fabricated story. He grabs a nearby rag and begins cleaning the counter. So, Bob, where do you catch that? I'm quite a whiz with numbers. Okay, so anyway, he backs up the story. Um, and then now finally the wizard is calling the MCP again, changing the text file to Homie and Bob become friends, and Homie helps protect the gem from other thieves. So this is kind of like, I don't want to say BS, but yeah, the point is that the thief was thwarted, and now this wizard agent is gonna change the future. So he's changing the future, and then the scene is over. So then that's the end, and then the bar wraps up, and it's like, oh, he changed the future. They seem to be getting along better. Describe the final scene. This is the final scene. Everything's fine. Final prophecy is at future.txt. It should actually give the outputs of the file. I think maybe that's something I can do in the future round. But I'll just go and show you. It has access to my Anthropic fun folder, so then it wrote down this future.txt, and in the text file, it should say, well, Homie and Bob are friends. So, yep, Homie and Bob become friends, and Homie helps protect the gem from other thieves. So I never made this text file. This text file was made automatically from the MCP, and then also it was edited by the MCP. So if I run this scenario again, like it should come to like a similar thing. So then after that, closes the MCP connection. So we got our two agents, or three agents now, four if you count the tavern. So we've got our agents. The tavern is basically like a server for, the wizard. When the wizard comes in, he's like, okay, who are these other agents? And then the tavern tells him. So we've got agent discovery, we've got MCP usage, we've got multiple different agents in the same place at the same time with their own different goals and motivations. And now the next step should be to try to get these agents to coordinate. And this is all Google. This is all like Gemini under the hood, which isn't even the best model. So like if I use like a better model, I'd be able to kind of get a better working example of this. But yeah, the point is we're using the A2A framework, we're passing JSONs all around, and yeah, we're also calling MCPs. And in the future, like this is just going to be like agents doing a bunch of things all together, but it's kind of cool. We have like an agent store. We've got multi agent collaboration hopefully soon, and then kind of go from there. The one thing I will say about this though is that I've been injecting a lot of stuff as a user, and then like the LLMs having to come up with it. In ideal situations, the LLMs would be the ones that are feeding the text to the next JSON, which then triggers the next event, and then it kind of just goes like that. So the future steps would be to test this out with some sort of longer running task, having like polling, but then the more interesting thing I think would be to have collaboration. So maybe like in the DnD example, we have like a team of agents against another team of agents, and then we get to see like how things kind of interact from there. So maybe work on combat or like a team of agents in the future, but I haven't seen much of anybody doing any A2A stuff with the MCP. Like I think it's so new that no one's even connected them. So MCP and A2A and AI and all your acronyms. Anyway, have a good day.